The Most Precious Gift, a story of the Nativity, written by Marty Crisp, illustrated by Floyd Cooper. Is this a true story? No, not in the sense of factual historical record. This story, similar to Song of the Stars, is an imagined story around the birth of Jesus. But there are deeper truths to be found in the stories from the Bible, mythology, and folklore. In this story is the story of the caravan of the three kings and about a boy named Amir. As much as he thought about it, Amir had no idea what to give the wondrous being they had set out to find, and time was running out. Amir's king had been advised to follow the star, to find the magical baby so long foretold. But stars were forever blinking on and off in the night sky. Amir felt much safer following his dog, Ra. Ra might only be the dog of a third assistant kennel keeper, but he had the best nose in all the eastern kingdoms. He often ranged in front of the caravan as if he knew exactly where they were going. Amir, however, trudged along in back, his feet dragging as he tried to think of something, anything, that might make a worthy gift. When Ra trotted back to walk beside him, Amir talked to the dog about it. Everyone has a present for the new king. The tent steward has a fine carpet, the robe maker a bolt of his best cloth, the woodcutter fashioned a staff of braided river willow, and the bird keeper taught the parrot to say, "Ra, hail to the king." But what can I give Ra? What? Amir had nothing to offer except a ragged scarf he'd caught sailing on a desert wind. It was ragged because Ra liked to play tug of war with it. It had been a week since the bread, fruit and bananas were heaped in baskets, the peacocks and pheasants shoved into cages, and the wineskins filled to bursting. Pairs of bullocks strained to pull the heavy sledges, so loaded down that their runners cut deep lines in the desert sand. The old king rode on a silver chaise atop the largest camel. Lesser noblemen rode smaller camels. Everyone else walked. Soon, two more kings joined the journey, and the caravan became a flowing city pouring across the desert. When they all stopped for a meal, Amir shared his own small portion of boiled egg and date bread with Ra. The two friends shared everything. Ra had been the runt of a royal litter of coursing hounds, and all runts were thrown into the river by order of the kennel master. But Amir had looked into the amber eyes of the pup and known he must save it. So, when the kennel keeper tossed a sack into the reeds at the shallow edge of the river, Amir was waiting. As soon as the keeper turned away, Amir hooked the sack with a long pole. Amir named his rescue puppy Ra. He thought the dog's white coat blazed like the rays of Ra, the sun god. He volunteered to watch the royal goat herd at night in exchange for milk. When he wasn't mucking out kennels, Amir stood moments to train Ra, rewarding him with hugs and words of praise. Ra grew into such a fine dog that the kennel keeper tried to reclaim him, but Ra refused to obey any voice but Amir's. Angry, the kennel keeper pulled out a whip to strike the disobedient dog, but Amir hurled himself between. He still bore a scar from that whip stroke on his cheek. "Faugh!" the kennel keeper had sneered. "You are a stupid boy, and this is a worthless dog." As the kennel keeper stamped away, Ra licked Amir's wound until they both felt better. If only Amir felt better now. Instead, he felt ashamed. "It is impossible," he confided to Ra. "Our king is giving the wondrous one a golden chalice. Another king carries a jeweled case filled with a yellow block of frankincense, big enough to light a whole palace. The third has a silver bowl filled with the red resin of the camphor tree. Everyone says camphor myrrh can cure any ailment from toothache to fever. There simply cannot be finer gifts than these, Ra. Perhaps if I were a great seer, I would know what to do, but I am only third assistant kennel keeper, and can see no further than the end of the rake I use to gather soiled straw. Amir fell asleep, still pondering the problem, his head pillowed on Ra's side. A full 14 days had passed by the time the great caravan stopped in a field next to the small village of Bethlehem. Amir had made up his mind. He would not allow himself to see the baby king. He would wait outside instead. Amir looked around. The town was not what he'd expected. There were only ordinary houses and shops, no palaces at all. The three kings walked over to the crude stable behind the town's only inn, ducking under the sloped thatched roof to enter. "Get in line! Line up!" shouted a burly overseer, trying to bring order to the chaos that swirled around the great caravan. He shoved Amir, with Ra at his heels, into line. Amir knew he should move to the side, but the crowd pushed forward, carrying them along until finally Amir had no choice but to bend and go through the low stable door. He blinked in surprise. There were no guards, no servants, no throne, not even a cradle. The royal baby lay wrapped in white cloth inside the wooden manger where cows munched their hay. A man and a woman in peasant clothing knelt beside him, the kings beside the small family. Amir fell to both knees and bowed his head. The glow of starlight filtered through the thatch. He blinked in surprise. There were no guards, no servants, no throne, not even a cradle. The royal baby lay wrapped in white cloth inside the wooden manger where cows munched their hay. A man and woman in peasant clothing knelt beside him, the king beside the small family. Amir fell to both knees and bowed his head. The glow of starlight filtered through the thatch, felt as warm as sunshine at noon. Amir could hear music. It was all around him, moving inside him. Ra whined softly, as if he heard it too. "Move along, make room," shouted a voice from somewhere outside. "But I have a gift," blurted Amir. He laid a trembling hand on Ra, leaning close to whisper in the dog's ear. Then Amir looked shyly at the baby's mother. "Here is my dog, Ra. He is a very good dog. He is my best friend. I promise he will watch you and keep you safe." Amir stood up before he could change his mind. Amir's king shook his head in disapproval, coming forward and laying a hand on Amir's arm. "It is not wise to give all you own, boy," he said in his deep voice. "For what, then, will you have left?" But the baby's mother reached out a gentle hand and touched them both, kennel boy and king. "Of all the gifts," she said softly, looking at Amir and gesturing toward the mound of presents with the king's gold, frankincense, and myrrh sitting on top, "yours is most precious." The baby's mother moved her hand to stroke Ra's head. The baby reached out a chubby fist and tried to put Ra's ear in his mouth. The baby's mother smiled at Amir. You have given all you have. That is what my son has come to ask of every man, though few will do it. Amir's face had grown hot. There was something salty on his lips, his own tears. He hadn't even known he was crying. Take care of Ra, Amir said, fighting to keep his voice steady. He is, Amir paused, the sun dog. Amir and Ra looked at each other one last time. Then Amir turned on his heels and fled blindly from the stable. Ra barked once, a goodbye. So it came to pass that God blessed Amir, just as Mary, the Holy Child's mother, had promised. As he grew to manhood, Amir became the most respected seer in all the eastern kingdoms, with a vision as pure and true as his heart. As for Ra, he led the baby's family from Israel to safety in Egypt, watching over the Christ child always. And every night, Amir looked up to the dark sky, for, as the Christmas star faded, the dog star took its place. It glows there still, the brightest star in all God's heaven. Here is an author's note. It says, the fact that a white dog is seen again and again in 14th through 16th century paintings of the Nativity fascinated me. In searching many sources, I discovered dozens of such paintings by old masters. The dog continued to appear in later paintings such as Christ healing the blind man and the supper at Emmaus. A symbol? Perhaps. A real dog? For a God who willingly became a man? What better companion could there be?